Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Leaders in Supply Chain Talent podcast. I'm your host, Shubh Faujdar, Head of Training and Development at Alcott Global. I'm very excited to have Sarita Das as our guest today. Sarita is the co founder and CHRO of 3SC Analytics, an 8-year-old supply chain tech company led by professionals all across the globe. Earlier in her career, she has been a human resource professional in various MNCs, including Vistion, Bayer, Nunhems, Zimmer Biomet, and Electa. Here at 3SC, Sarita has been working closely with the IT executives to help work on their in house tools. Creating and building 3SC has been one of the greatest achievements of her life, and here she is today with 250 plus team members with footprints in India, Southeast Asia, and Europe, and growing, by the way. And she desires to make 3SC one of the most admired solution providers in the world. Sarada, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi. Thank you, Shub, for calling me and inviting me. Yeah, I think all yours.
All right, perfect. So I'm very excited for this conversation, Sarita. I think let's start by understanding how you got started with 3SC and all the things you've been handling for the last decade during its growth.
Well, I think Lalit, who's the founder and CEO, when he shared this idea of filling this space with technology enablement in supply chain domain, since he came from supply chain background, I didn't understand much, honestly. I knew about supply chain having worked in various organizations and understanding or seeing the challenges after having worked in a leadership role in multiple organizations. So you do understand, but again, it's like you don't understand the core subjects unless you have practiced it. So
Mhm.
supply chain for me was a distant baby. So I've seen it grow, I've heard, I've read, but I never practiced it because I was always a hardcore HR professional. But then when Lalit wanted to start it, he was so passionate about it. He shared his vision and dream. So I said, how can I contribute? So maybe which are the areas I could pick. And also at the same time, you always have those apprehensions whether you're going to succeed, you're going to
Mhm.
fail. And living a high paying corporate job isn't very easy, and especially when you've been successful in doing what you've been doing. So it was a very big decision for me. But I think unless you take risk, you can't materialize your dreams. So I think that step I took, and I'm actually very happy that I did. So I think we started the Indian entity in 2012, and in Netherlands we started in 2008. Yeah, 2012 we started, in 2018 in Netherlands we started.
Mhm.
And yeah, there hasn't been any looking back since then. So we kept adding more services, more product offerings, more customers, employees across boundaries. So it's been a very fulfilling and learning with a lot of challenges. But I think that again worked in multiple directions, kept giving us a kick to do
Uh-huh.
more, to do better. So I think, yeah, so it's been a tremendous experience so far, so good.
Yeah, and
And
I see you've been wearing a lot of hats with 3SC and not just HR. Tell us more how you've contributed and what kind of roles you've played in the last decade.
okay, so it was Lalit who was so how we decided to divide the work, because you we started as a bootstrap, so there was
Yeah.
no funding with us. So we wanted to learn and grow as a sustainable organization. I think that's something we've always kind of had a DNA in the organization. We wanted that, we wanted to be self-sustained before we go for funding, or
Mhm.
the idea was we should remain self-sustained and self-sufficient no matter what business we do, how many employees we bring. So it was always a chicken and egg situation, of course, whether you bring people first or you bring business first. So we always had to make those choices, and that till the time we got GEF, which is a private equity last year. But I think since the inception of the organization, Lalit focused primarily on the sales, market
Mhm.
interface, getting customers on board, implementations, the solution side. So more, customer success, pre-solutions to sales to, I think so he has been a interface or a face for the organization, realizing his dreams, converting it and creating the footprint. For me, the clear choice was that I will take up everything that is needed to support and to enable the growth. So whether it was putting the IT systems in place, whether it was managing the cash flows, whether it was onboarding or training the resources, whether it was setting up the operations,
Mhm.
connecting even with the vendors, So yeah, even making the contracts, when we started, because the team wasn't there. So I think we started with every small little thing, from employee handbook to appointment letters to, yeah, a lot of things which we could do in-house. We did somewhere, we appointed consultant, we engaged few freelancers. So I think it's been so we created certain tools. So I was working very, very closely with the team to build our own in-house
Mhm.
TMS, WMS, and control tower system that we have. So yes, it's been a learning, managing finance, so wearing all the C hats till the time. We actually have onboarded now CPO, CTO, CFO, operations. Everybody is there now. The C-level hiring is now completed. But I think, and I'm glad having no finance background, still I've been able to raise a B series funding, and now
Mhm.
I have handed over to a professional CFO to manage, who's come from Pine Lab. So I think so far it's been very fulfilling, I would say.
Fantastic. So all the C-level hats, still you found people and grown
Yes,
enough. And look, I can't really call 3SC a startup right now because you guys have become so big. So
true.
as a scale up that is going global, what are your biggest challenges for attracting and retaining talent?
When it comes to attracting and retaining, I would say it's a challenge for any organization,
Mhm.
no matter scale up, startup, or large organization where I've worked in different multinationals. So that always remains a challenge. However, especially on tech side right now, the market is so hot that
Mhm.
people have plenty of opportunities. Money is easily available, whatever they ask for. There are ESOPs, there are well-being benefits. There are so many frills more than compensation. But I think what people look for, especially in the younger generation or Gen Z, so every generation has their own kicks
Mhm.
and what motivation they have. So to me, it looks like they want to have it all, whether it's work-life balance, whether it's learning, whether it's compensation. So striking that balance and still be able to attract people. I think today it's no more only an employer market.
Mhm.
Since very long, it's employee also who
Yeah.
chooses. And I find it very encouraging, honestly, since we've seen changed, this paradigm shift in the trends and all in last 2 3 decades. So I think it's very important for both the parties, whether employee or employer, to marry each other literally,
Mhm.
because it's like any other relationship, right? So like when we hire any senior resources or mid-level resources nowadays, we what we do is not only do we do the briefing for the job description, it's literally a half an hour to 40 minutes presentation that we give to people, that this is who we are, this is what we intend to do. We engage them with the hiring manager, with the C-level suite, so that they understand what is the vision that we have and where we want to take the organization. So it's not purely exchange of compensation letters and all, and still you see so many dropouts, which I feel is a better thing to have them
Yeah.
drop now rather than getting on board. If you don't get the like-minded people, you are actually going few steps backward. So we are pushing, accelerating our hiring process, putting a lot of changes in place, whether it's engagement during the offer period or, so that is on the attracting the talent part. On the retaining talent part, I think again, we are also doing a lot of practices which are there in the market, whether it is ESOPs, whether it's leading on the compensation
Mm-hmm.
side, giving enriched role or training opportunities. So we also believe a lot in IGP that we've been practicing. So not restricting only to one vertical or
Okay.
function. And so there's a lot of cross-functional transfers or happening as well. So which kind of gives the employee a lot of learning and growth within the
Yeah.
organization. And especially it's a fast-paced environment that we have. So by default, the learning is something. So when candidates ask me, what is it that you can offer me? I said, look, I can't comment on what other offers you may get, but I can only promise you that you will never regret joining us from the learning perspective.
Mm.
That's the only thing we can promise. So even if you exit after 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and you look back, you would have gained so much as a professional. That's the only thing we commit to anyone who's planning to join us.
Yeah, and you've touched on some very good point, marrying each other, creating that value-based system. I was speaking to some other leader in supply chain, and we were talking about what the new generation wants. And when I say new generation, it's not only by the years, but also like what does the whole workforce today want? And some of the
Correct.
things which came out was being able to add value and what are they contributing to. So things like sustainability, the
Absolutely.
impact you're creating makes so much more sense to people now than it did years before. And
Right.
yes, being challenged, people are not
Yeah.
looking at jobs just for taking a paycheck. They want to be learning and
Yeah.
going from here. Now you also seem to have a very
Just to add there, when you talk about sustainability, so we also launched a product last year, which
Mhm.
is called Carbon X, which is focused only on sustainability. So whatever carbon emission is done through supply chain practices, whether
Mhm.
it's through shipments, movement of goods. So we are working with a global customer already. It's been deployed, and we are working to do launch in other customers also. So again, coming back to sustainability and how you contribute to the society as a whole, and showing that bigger picture is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think anybody in supply chain and logistics, I mean, at this point in time, it's been established it's such a critical function. So you are making things move in these times, you're anyway contributing. And when you add all these little
Absolutely.
things, it becomes a very compelling argument. And,
True.
and you are rapidly expanding, which means that, the culture which you've built so far or which you envision for the organization, it has to be thought through now. It can't just be treated as a startup. So I would love to know, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to know, how are you creating a culture for 3SC, and how are you ensuring that it rolls out throughout the organization across geographies, with certain nuances, of course, to make way for different cultural standards. What have you been doing?
When it comes to culture, I think it starts from the very basic things that we are
Mm.
doing and how we are doing. To me, the definition of culture is anything and everything that you practice day in and day out, without even thinking. So you start breathing something subconsciously, unconsciously, it's there. I think
Mhm.
that is what, in a very simple language, culture means to me. And, again, uh, now that we are so there are few work values or professional ethics or individual ethics which are important for any business, any geography, right? Whether it's respect, diversity, ethics, integrity. I think learning or be open to the feedback, receptive to the ideas or change management. So I think those are few things which are very critical for any
Mhm.
organization success and for any individual to succeed.
Mhm.
But at the same time, while we are growing globally, we are hiring more and more people in different geography. Cultural diversity also becomes very important. So for people to be sensitized to how the same thing can be interpreted in Asian culture or a European or a UK or US or France. So everything is about cultural nuances or cultural understanding right now. And I think if you ask me what are the specific efforts that we are putting, it's a lot more communication, I would say. A lot more communication, personal meetings, alignment within the C-level team, and then cascading the same things down the line. And then we are doing as HR, we are conducting workshops. We are also working with few training organizations to come out with a program so that, with all the new people coming in or all the existing ones who are been there in this journey, change management for us is very important for us to, focus on. Otherwise, again, it's two step forward and one step backward kind of thing. So I think the basic ethos remains same for the organization, and something that we've always emphasized is act like owner concept.
Yeah.
Allo. So in terms of accountability, ownership, so any even if so we have very young team, okay,
Hmm.
our average age is around 30,
Wow.
and for a lot of them it's a first job. For a lot of them, so we have youngest joining is about 22 years and the oldest is about 54. So no, that's the skew, but majority of our people are around the age group of 30. So for them, taking big decision becomes a little tricky for them. So then we say that, you take risk, we are there. If you fall, we'll be there. But you should act like owner. What if you were owning this unit or this project or this customer? What decision would you take? You should come prepared. Would you say a yes or no? So then we try to handhold and put them in these scenarios where they're actually able to do the decision making, and we see people have grown and developed. This thinking process over the year has changed. So it's more of on the job trainings that we are doing. Yeah, but very closely working with them as leaders.
Fantastic. I love the act like a owner thing. And I think it would be very interesting to hear from you some examples where it has worked out very well, from your experience, and maybe some example where people actually didn't do a good job and how you supported them afterwards would be fantastic for our audience to listen.
Okay, so I think act like owner when we say so. There was a person who was working in our digital control tower. Okay, and we came up with one of the FMCD project wherein we took end-to-end project from the designing to the execution, so which included warehousing also, transportation also, everything, from network design to the order fulfillment, planning. So this guy was always showing a very promising, attitude he had and the skill set he had, but never had handled operations per se. And this, as in today, is our largest customer, okay, since last 10 years. So when we started with them, I think it took guts for us also to take that risk and put someone like that in the project. So we asked him that, would you like to take up this project? So he was, of course, skeptical and nervous. So we said, we'll not let you fail. Even if you do, we are there. So we are not going to jeopardize the customer's business, but we want you to be there and we will help. And that person actually, of course, there are challenges, any new business, but he did brilliantly well, I must say. And he was, I think, performing at the highest levels, getting clothes from customers or in-house, manage the customer with full ownership, um, implementation, profitability, customer escalations or billing. So everything, he took care of everything, and he handled this customer for almost 8 years. So that was a
Wow.
success story, right?
Absolutely. So truly empowering him to succeed no matter
Yes.
what. Yeah.
Yes. So on the other side, so there was one finance guy that we had, and he was always intrigued with that. I want to get into logistics. So we told him, okay, you take one customer, and from the BD cycle to the implementation, managing. So key account management is what he wanted to work for, and we shifted him. So, but unfortunately, as I said, you always have those risks when you give such opportunity to employees. But that person did not succeed in the project. So there were some flaws in the design, there were some on the customer side challenge. So multiple reasons, but somehow the person did not succeed so much. So we offered him to come back to finance,
And
But
that's great, because I think a lot of time people don't dare to take risks because the company, as you just put a while back, we had the guts
absolutely.
to to take the
Yes, so
risk.
because he was doing very well in finance function that he was handling. So there was no point losing a good finance person. So he got the opportunity. He realized that he did not do well. We handed over to someone else, which is okay. But at least as an employee, I would say he got the opportunity. As an organization, we gave him fair chance. He could
Yeah.
have he because the other guy that I'm talking about, they both joined at the same time. So
Mhm.
that always the comparison or competition was, which is healthy, that if he could do, why can't I? So we were like, okay, we will give you the opportunity. So he made and he succeeded. If you are also, as an organization, it's a win-win for us. Why would we not give the opportunity? So I
Absolutely.
think that was, so that has been a culture. So we have a lot of even today we have a lot of inter-department transfers happening from supply chain execution team to analytics, from analytics to customer side, dedicated businesses. Some people have moved from analytics to operations. So it depends on, after you start working and you find something, oh, that is something I find more interesting. And I would say we've been lucky as an organization that within 3SE, we have tech organization also, we have operation
Mhm.
organization also. So people can experience the entire life cycle from
Yeah.
design to delivery of the entire supply chain. So that gives them a good exposure, a good learning and opportunity.
Fantastic. So, you're going through so much in the organization and have been for the last 10 years. What would be some of the most important skills that scale ups like yourself look for while hiring senior level talent?
I think apart from function, people management skill are
Mhm.
absolute important to be able to gain the trust of the existing team, um, to be able to lead by example, make your
Mhm.
own hands dirty. But because we have seen a lot of managers or leaders who come from large organization always struggle because they've been used to so much of process. And somebody once asked, what is the culture? I said, chaotic. Because we are always in fluid state, everything is changing. We are constantly in a change phase. Right now this is the priority, another minute there'll be something else as a priority. There's always a firefighting, and somebody who's come from a very structured process driven environment would always find it difficult to cope up with this kind of variation and changes. Whereas if you are flexible and be able to adapt to these changes, I think that is absolute must for anybody to work in any startup or scale up organization, because you might end up starting from scratch, from making an Excel sheet
Yeah.
to the presentation. So that's the kind of range that you operate in. So I
Mhm.
think for leaders or the C level or any senior resources, something that we absolutely need to succeed is the people management skills.
Mm. Yeah, people make or break your business, and you guys have
Absolutely.
been doing a great role with the way you are expressing how you're building the culture. So I'm going to shift gears and ask you, from the perspective of employees, what would be your biggest advice to anybody who's looking at joining a startup or a scale up within the supply chain space? What would Sarita, this co-founder and CHRO of 3SC, have to say to them?
I think receptive to change is something that all of us need.
Yes.
So change, patience, I think that's also very important. So if we come up with a mind, anybody, and again, generation today, since I have young kids, so I know the patience is
Mm.
something which they generally have, they are not very patient. So I think being patient is very important, because good things are not made. Rome was not built in a day.
Mm,
So belief in the vision that the startup or scale up has is very important when you decide to join them. And
mhm.
then and once you've decided, just be patient and be part of that journey, because you are in in that journey to growth, or to create something which is not going to happen in a day. It
Yeah.
will take years, right? And patience and change, I think these are two very, very important aspects for any individual to succeed in a startup or scale up, irrespective of which level you join, honestly.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarita, for spending your time here today and sharing with us such brilliant nuggets of wisdom. I'm sure this is going to be very interesting for people who are leading in scale ups and startups right now. It would be very interesting for people who are planning to join these kind of organizations. Thanks a lot to our
Thank you so
audience.
much.
To our audience, please do follow Sarita. Her profile will be linked in today's post. And let's see how 3SC goes with their journey and learn from her experience of managing people.
Thank you so much.